Hey guys, my name is Taylor G. I am a professional guitarist. I've appeared on several TV shows as well as commercials, and I've also toured and worked with major artists that you may know, like Stevie Wonder, Ari Lennox, and Victoria Monet. Join me in this guitar tutorial. All you'll need is a guitar, a 1/4 inch, a pick, as well as an amp. Does that sound familiar? This is what we call a scale. A scale is 7 notes that come together in a sequence of frequency and pitch. Scales are important because they help us to be able to play fluid solos as well as melody lines. They're also important because they help keep us in key. The starting point for a scale is contingent upon the pitch or key that it is in. So what does this mean? It means that we are going back to that root note and identifying the starting point at which we're going to play what we know as our scale. So how do I know where the root note is? If you don't know your notes, of course, you can't find your key. So one way to do that is by knowing our note names. So how do I know where my notes are on the fretboard? First, we gotta know the basis of theory. Now, in Western civilization, music is comprised of 12 notes. Now I'm gonna bring up a piano. So if you notice on the piano, it is made up of 12 notes that are repeating. We have an A. We have an A sharp, also known as B flat. We have our B. Now we have a C. We have a C sharp, also known as D flat. We have a D. We have a D sharp, also known as E flat. We have an E. We have an F. We have an F sharp, also known as G flat. We have a G. And then we have a G sharp, which is also known as A flat. And then what happens is it repeats, and we go through it again. The white keys are our natural notes. They're not sharpened, nor are they flattened. The black keys are sharpened or flattened. What do I mean when I say flat and sharp? Flat is when a note is lower than its natural note. So an example, we have B, and then we have B flat, which is a half step down from B. Sharp is when a note is higher than its natural note. So when I say A sharp, I mean A and then going a half step up to A sharp. The same concept applies to your fretboard, except the notes may seem to be a little out of order, but no worries, I have a trick for that too. We want to start with our low E. Next, we're going to look at the piano and we're going to see what comes after E. There is no black key between E and F, which means that there is no E sharp or F flat. We're just going to go straight to F. Next is F sharp or G flat. Next is G. After that, we've got G sharp or A flat. Now we're going to go straight to our open string and play A. Then we're going to play B flat, also known as A sharp. Then we're going to play B. Then we're going to play C. Again, no black key in between the B and the C, so we're going straight to C. C sharp or D flat, going straight to D. E flat, E, no black keys, so F, F sharp, G, A flat, A, B flat, B. Now remember I mentioned to you that B and the open B, these are the same notes. So you can either skip the 4th fret and go straight to the open string, or you can play the 4th fret and jump straight to your 1st fret of the B string, okay? Otherwise, you're gonna get the same note and jump straight to the 1st fret, which is C, C sharp or D flat, D, then we got D sharp, or E flat, E. Then we have F, F sharp, G. Then we have A flat or G sharp. That's a lot to remember. And knowing that it does go in order up to a certain point is definitely going to help you be able to memorize or be able to go through your notes one by one in sequence. So remember, I promised you that I would give you a tip to be able to know where your notes are. If I wanted you to be able to identify another B on the fretboard between frets 1 through 4, what would you do? Well, I would find my B. I know this is A, right? That's open A. If I come up a half step, that's A sharp or B flat. And then if I come up another half step, that's my B. So identifying a note that is closest to another note can help you with this. Now here's another tip on identifying a different B. All I want you to do is go up a whole step and then shift down 2 strings. And congratulations, you found your octave. Now this works anywhere on the fretboard when you are between the E and A strings or the D and G strings to find relationships between those notes. Now what if I told you to find an A flat that is the same note but a higher frequency, meaning it's at an octave? Then I would tell you to find your A flat. What's closest to A flat? G. All I would do is add my index finger to the first fret and there's A flat. This time, I want you to shift up 3 frets. 1, 2, 3. And then I want you to shift down 2 strings again. 1, 2. Same note, different frequency. Now let's go backwards. Shift up 2 strings. Go back 3 frets. And then use your pinky to play that octave. And again, you have found the octaves. Now, octaves are a great way to be able to identify your notes quickly when you're in doubt. I tell my students typically to work on the E and A strings only. Then work on your D and G strings. Finding relationships between the strings will help you with fretboard memorization. Now that we know our notes, let's talk more about major scales. So I want you to find G. So we have our low, E, F, F sharp, G. Very nice. Now there is a scale formula to help you easily identify your G major scale. And for right now, I just want you to focus on the top 3 strings, and then we'll add the bottom 3 strings, okay? I want you to start with your middle finger on the 3rd fret of the low E string. Then I want you to move up a whole step with your pinky to the 5th fret. Then I want you to play the A string 2nd fret with your index finger. Then we're going to move to the 3rd fret with our middle. Then we're going to move to the 5th fret with our pinky. Then we're going to move to the 2nd fret of the D string with our index. Then we're going to move to the 4th fret with our ring. And then we're going to finish off with our pinky on the 5th fret. So we're going to cycle through that again. 3rd fret, 5th fret, A string 2nd fret, 3rd fret, 5th fret, D string 2nd fret, 4th fret, 5th fret. Very nice. I've got a tab for you in class resources to help you with memorizing that. But now let's add the other 3 strings. Now, all this is just the notes repeating, but the form looks a little bit different. So we've gotten this far. What's next? we're going to play the G string 2nd fret with our index. Then we're going to play the 4th fret with our ring. We're going to play the 5th fret with our pinky. Now we're going to play the B string 3rd fret with our middle. We're going to play the 5th fret with our pinky. We're going to come to the high E string and play the 2nd fret with our index. And then we're going to finish it off with our middle finger on the 3rd fret of that same string. So let's play that together one time. Here we go. Starting on the 5th fret, 2nd, 4th, 5th, 3rd of the B, 5th, 2nd of the high E, 3rd of the high E. Okay, let's try it backwards. 3rd, 2nd, 5th, 3rd. Here we go, we stretch into that 5th of the G, coming down to the 4th, coming down to the 2nd, and back to the 5th. So let's try combining it if you think you've got both of those, okay? We're starting on the 3rd fret of the low E string. Here we go. All right, let's go backwards. Very nice. During this learning path, you'll learn things like how to read a chord chart, how to add some dynamic to your playing, and you'll even learn how to construct your own sound. By the end, you'll earn your stripes as a real guitarist. Tune into the rest of this class, as well as my other 4 classes. Click the link below to join me on Skillshare.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe to stay up to date on all of our latest videos.